Welcome to Dwelling of Duels. Sorry about that. I'm your host, Evil Sonic, and tonight we have a stacked free month listening party. You know what they say, free month brings out all the crazies, and I hope you crazies didn't let us down this month. What am I talking about? I know you didn't, you legends. You submitted not one, not two, but 35 mains and 12 alts. And you know what I love to say about alts? That's right. I want you to stay for the Tornado of Solos contest reveal. After we've heard our 35 mains, but before we've heard our 12 alts, we will reveal the very special Tornado of Solos theme. And you will have until Thursday, April the 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, that's right, Minnesota time, to get those tornadoes in. Get those tracks in, and we'll play them live and in person at VGM Con on Saturday, April 12th, and that is, get this, 2 p.m. Central. I don't even know what that is, but they told me that's what it was. But hey, before you start arranging those tracks, I want you to listen to these 47 other bangers that your friends, family, enemies, and acquaintances have made. We've got about 2.5 hours of music ahead of us, so let's cross those fingers, cross these streams, cross that chrono, and keep it right here, because this is Dwelling of Duels. just heard F0X Blue Level, Dragon Warrior and Dragon Warrior 3, Dragon Quest is so sad, Dragon Slayer The Legend of Heroes 2, Fairweather Spaceman. I'm gonna make a note here that I put these in the wrong order on the playlist, so if you are voting on the website, check your Chrono's triggers. Here's a hint, you'll be sliding right on both of them probably, but I shouldn't comment on that. Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross, the real trigger was the friends we made along the way, and Chrono Trigger, It's About Time. There was some Celeste, Dope Queer, and Blastcore, Give Me Some Time to Get Moving. Dwelling of Duels is a video game remix competition from the internet. 21 and a half years ago, when the only instrument humanity had yet discovered was the electric guitar with scooped mids, this consortium of champions came into being when someone on a message board told someone else that they were a better guitarist than them, and a challenge was issued. A lot has happened since then. In the past few years, humanity invented some new instruments like the automaton and the burb, but Dwelling of Duels has stayed exactly the same. Turn up my mic. I'll turn up your mic, Sly Man. Okay, we started using sliders to vote instead of using points, and we moved from a message board to Discord, and we fixed the snare, but it's still largely the same. One of the other things that has stayed the same is the anonymity. You have the literal rest of your lives to talk about what you did on your track, but do yourself and others a favor. You gotta keep that anon for a few more days. I know you feel like a kid at Christmas just waiting to share those sweet, delicious nuggets about how you arranged the thing or you sidechained a different thing, but hold those horses and keep it right here, because this is Dwelling of Duels.
You are the ocean's gray waves, destined to seek life beyond the shore, just out of reach. Yet the waters ever change, flowing like time. The path is yours to climb. falls away in time. Goodbye to all the plans that we made. No contracts, I'm free to do as I may. No hunger, no sleep except to dream. Mild and warm, safe from all harm. Calm, good riddance to all the thieves, to all the fools that stifled me. They've come and gone and passed me by. Good riddance
shit, that song was so good. I am not ready for. I was not prepared. You just heard Legend of Zelda: Leyenda und Labyrinth. Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, Overture to Salvation, Kirby Triple Deluxe Bonkers, Jusant Ebb, Hades Good Riddance, Golden Axe Warrior Fantasy Cafe, Getter Love Cho Rene Party Game Tanyo, A Quick Nap for Makato, Fire Emblem Fates, Lost in Thoughts, and Time, and Direction. I think I'm just lost. All alone. And Final Fantasy VII, Joe Nova's Meteor Crater. Wow, fam. Pretty good stuff. Hey, y'all remember back when the winner of DoD got nothing except bragging rights on the internet? Well, no more. The fine folks at Impact Soundworks have been kind enough to award special plug-in prizes to those vaunted champions who emerge victorious from the Dwelling Supreme. And these are not some off-the-street rubes who would not know a Dig Dug from a Donkey Kong. Oh, no. Some of the fine people who work for and or record for Impact Soundworks include Lauren the Flute, Andrew Aversa, Sixto Sounds, Pud, Norg, and Frank Klepacki. I don't know about you, but I heard some DoD names in there. Anyone who is looking for a new string library should check out their Tokyo Scoring Strings, featuring the string ensemble heard on Octopath Traveler, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and a ton of other anime and game soundtracks. And they also offer the Tokyo Scoring drum kits for all your JRPG battle theme needs. Damn, let's just say thank you to those Soundworks that are Impact. Those Impact Soundworks. Dwelling of Duels, I love you too much to keep talking, because the past few blocks of tracks have been absolutely off the walls, bananas, insanely good. You probably want to hear more of that than this NES loop with some guy just talking over it, so I'm not going to wait another second. I'm going to keep it right here. I'm going to ask you to stay for the alts. Oh, and we're not just staying for the alts, we're staying for that super special announcement. We know what we're talking about. Tornado of Solos theme reveal coming up soon right here, because this is Dwelling of Duels.
What's up, Alex?
Hey.
Roxy has news for you.
Oh?
Randy and Andy are Cindy's kidnappers. She's locked up on River City High's top floor.
Okay.
I heard she's in the far right room.
Gotcha.
But to rescue her, you must beat the twins.
Oh.
They're both clowns, but are very strong.
Yeah, we know.
Power up, or you'll be in terrible danger.
Got it.
Don't take chances.
I won't, I promise.
I'm Slick's girl, but I'm on your side.
I greatly appreciate that.
Be careful, please.
You got it. Thanks again, Roxy.
All right. You just heard River City Ransom. Thanks again, Roxy. Radiant Historia, Affectionate Moment. Pokemon Emerald, Little Rock Town. Outer Wilds, Once More, Into the Storm. Might and Magic 3, The Fountainhead, The Fool, The Horse, and the Blacksmith. Mega Race, In Memoriam, Mega Man X, Stormblind. I almost said 10. That would have been wrong. And Luigi's Mansion, Booze on the Loose, Luigi's Mansion main theme. Hello! I'm still your host, Evil Sonic, and this is still Dwelling of Duels, or as I like to call it, Dwelly Dwelly Duels Duels. Please don't call it that. But you know what you can do? This is the part where I have to type. You can vote along with all these great songs while you're listening on our fancy website. Go check those votes. Thanks, Moobot. Voting is how we know which songs place in which order, and if no one did it, we would have nothing to talk about in our Discord server except that goddamn Fred thing I still don't understand. And if you're not in our Discord server, or you don't know what the hell that goddamn Fred is, you should check us out. We're totally fun and groovy. It's Discord. Hey. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff on that Discord server. But the place that's really been hopping nonstop for the past 25 hours has been the supporters only channel where Patreon and Twitch subscribers have seen the next month's artwork, and let me tell you, it's lit, or deck, or fetch, or whatever it is. But you know what those good supporters know how to do? Is they know how to keep their trap shut, because that's still secret. You don't talk about next month's theme if you're not a patron. And you know why that is? Because this is Dwelling of Duels, and we keep that shit anon. So you jabronis, keep your tracks anonymous until the results are up, because this is Dwelling of Duels, an anonymous video game remix competition. And now, music! Scoop the mids, stay for the alts, literally 1984, and keep it right here, because this is the DoD tone.
Hey, wait a minute. What do you think you're doing?
skin and bones, nothing inside, sleeping alone. Fingers tied themselves in knots around the heart, it beats in time. I see the spine of the world sparkle and shine, light the inside. I see the spine of the world, I know it's mine, twisted and tied. You always go walking on coals, walk away slow, feel a fire light your way to me, my siren song for you. I see the spine of the world sparkle and shine, light the inside. I see the spine of the world, I know it's mine, twisted and tied. So come with me, we'll fly right over, right over. Watch it break if we get closer, much closer. I see the spine of the world sparkle and shine, like the inside. I see the spine of the world, you know it's mine, twisted and tied. Cold, the air and water flowing. Hard, the land we call our home. Push to keep the dark from coming. Feel the weight of what we owe. This, the song of sons and daughters. Hide the heart of who we are. Making peace to build our future. Strong, united, working till we fall. The air and water flowing. Hard, the land we call our home. Push to keep the dark from coming. Feel the weight of what we owe. This, the song of sons and daughters. Hide the heart of who we are. Making peace to build our future. Strong, united, working till we fall. And we all lift, and we're all adrift together, through the cold mist, till we're lifeless together. Cold, the air and water flowing. Hard, the land we call our home. Push to keep the dark from coming. Feel the weight of what we owe.
just heard X-Men, Children of the Atom, Tentacle Blues, Warframe, We All Kinda Suck Actually, Together. UFO 50, Beware the Forest Mooncats, UN Squadron, Helicopter Vaporization, Feel Good Tune of the Year, Transistor, Spine of the Disco, Suikoden 2, Winds of Chains, Spiritfarer and Guide You Through, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, El Erizo del Rio, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Chemical Plant Zone, but it's a Sonic Adventure 2 action stage. Skies of Arcadia, those kids in Horteca are screwing around with the GD-ROM again, and RuneScape, cooked by the book. Okay, friends, that was the main. I'm gonna tell you to stay for the alts, but first... Oh, dip, everybody. I gotta ready for the OBS. I gotta tell it to do some things. Because I'm not just gonna tell you, I'm gonna show you. A very special Tornado of Solos announcement. I'm gonna start by saying there is some incredible banner art from that mad lad who submits so early in the month that it breaks the website. Retro Reboot. I'm talking about you. I'm gonna click a button. I'm gonna click another button. Let's transition over here. This is gonna cover the chat a little bit, but that's okay. Here we go. Stage 2 from Sky Shark. I know what y'all are thinking. What the hell is Sky Shark? Let me start by saying it's a Folan track, so it shreds. It has some super fun cover art, and like so many Folan tracks, it goes way harder than it has any right to. Since some of you may be a little bit less familiar, I figured I would drop the needle on this record and spin it right up here. So let me play for you now stage 2 of Sky Shark. Alright, that was Sky Shark Stage 2. Okay, a little bit of background. I did kind of pick that one because I just felt I've loved that game. I've wanted to hear it in DoD for so long. So if this is the time that I literally 1984 and just impose my, authoritarian tendencies upon you, I really want to hear that track covered in DOD. And I'm not going to apologize. That's just the way it is. I'm going to be sharing some references and resources. There's a just hot off the presses provided by JMR, you champion of champions, a MIDI rip. We've got the YouTube video, all the stuff, all the information, everything you'll need to listen to this track, to take it, to make it your own for that very special live in-person VGM Con listening party that's going to be happening in just a few weeks. I'm not going to be there in person, but I'm going to be there in spirit. And with all you friends made along the way, isn't that just the way it goes? Anyway, we've heard the mains. We've had our special Tornado of Solos reveal. So you know what to do. I want to hear you say it with me. Hang on, I'm going to stand away from the microphone because I want to do this right. I don't want to clip on you. Okay, everybody. Stay for the alts! Keep it right here, because this is Dwelling of Duels.
War never changes. The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted. Too many humans, not enough space or resources to go around. The details are trivial and pointless. The reasons, as always, purely human ones. The Earth was nearly wiped clean of life. An atomic spark struck by human hands. Humanity was almost extinguished, their spirits becoming part of the background radiation that blanketed the Earth. A quiet darkness fell across the planet, lasting many years.
Scooby-Doo, where are you? We got some work to do now. Scooby-Doo, where are you? Need some help from you now. Come on, Scooby-Doo, I see you. Pretending you got a shiver. You're not fooling me, 'cause I can see the way you shake and shiver. You know we got a mystery to solve, so Scooby-Doo, be ready for your act. Don't hold back, and Scooby-Doo, if you come through, you're gonna have yourself a Scooby snack. That's a fact. Come on, Scooby-Doo, I see you. You're ready and you're willing. If we can count on you, Scooby-Doo, I know we'll catch that villain.
If you're feeling sad and lonely, you should call up my homie. He's good at dive-kicking rats, and he knows all of the strats. Call Valence. Don't be afraid to call Valence. Just dial him up, he is Valence. Call him and he'll be around.
My name is Agent Fox Mulder. You've probably seen me on the Fox network. I work for the FBI, such as it is. I knew there were dark forces at work within our government, but as Agent Dana Scully and I would soon find out, there's no telling how high the rabbit hole goes.
Mulder, we have to go upstairs. Assistant Director Skinner needs to see us.
Okay, so how was your weekend, Scully?
It was actually pretty terrible. My mother had a very serious accident.
Yeah, fine, whatever. Did you know that there's a respected astrophysicist right here in the Washington, D.C. area who has incontrovertible proof of the existence of extraterrestrial life?
Mulder, we've both been abducted like half a dozen times by now. Do we really need more proof?
Just think, Scully. Incontrovertible proof. Proof that can't be controverted.
Look, here we are at Skinner's office. Let's go see what he wants.
You wanted to see us, Principal Skinner?
Don't call me that. Take a seat, agents.
What did Mulder do this time?
I'm getting orders from my superiors that we need to drastically reduce spending, and I've been looking over some of your expense reports.
Who are these so-called superiors, and why are they so frightened of the truth?
Agent Mulder, the new administration has collectively read 3 books over the past 50 years. If any of them were confronted with the truth, I'm sure they would literally shit their pants like it was 1984.
Sir, you were talking about our expense reports?
Yes, on your last assignment, you spent $300 on videotapes?
Sir, my character famously has an addiction to porn.
Rein in the spending, agents. You're dismissed.
I told you Skinner was going to bust your ass for all that pornography.
Skinner can go pound sand. Let's go find that incontrovertible proof.
But Mulder...
Incontrovertible. My work has given me a reputation, and often I get tips from like-minded believers. Sometimes I'm fed misinformation by those looking to discredit me. I know this lead is solid, though. It comes from the upper echelons of power through a group Slack chat. As we drive in stony silence, I think about how Scully, skeptic that she is, has stood by me all these years. I wonder what goes through her mind as we drive through the heartland of America.
My God, I hate him.
Who the hell are you?
Agents Mulder and Scully, FBI. FBI.
Oh, good, you're here about the alien.
Sir, there's no proof aliens exist.
Scully, you just admitted to being abducted.
That was like 3 scenes ago. I'm a skeptic again.
Look, it's an alien, or a Sasquatch, or some kind of woke. All I know is that it's crapping in my basement, and I want you to get it out of there.
You have an alien in your possession?
It's not in my possession, it's in my damn basement. I went down to feed the ferret and it jumped at me.
The ferret?
No, the damn alien. The president said the aliens are invading, so I figured I'd call the failing Bureau of Investigation to do something for once.
Wow, just wow.
Sir, I was under the impression you were a respected astrophysicist, but you appear to be something of a, Scully, what's the word?
Moron.
I'm not some hoity-toity leftist astrophysicist. I'm an astrologist. The age of Aquarius and all that.
Let me get this straight. You're an astrologist. You have a ferret. There's an alien in your basement. You're clearly some kind of nut job. And you want the FBI to remove the alien.
Yeah.
Let's go, Mulder.
Scully, wait. The answer to all my questions about the government, my sister's abduction, the cover-ups, it could be in this humble astrophysicist's basement.
I'm an astrologist, you damn fool. Do I look like I went to college?
I have to go down there.
I'm gonna wait in the car.
Sir, take me down to your basement.
It's over there, crouched behind the Leslie Nielsen cardboard cutout.
Why do you have a Leslie Nielsen cardboard cutout?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought this was America.
Excuse me, extraterrestrial. I'm sure you have many questions about us and our planet, and that there's much we can learn from each other. If you would just...
I told ya, damn thing just keeps crapping all over the basement.
Hey, Mulder, you ate all my goldfish. Do you have any other snacks?
Scully, there's an alien right there. Proof of all the work. Incontrovertible proof of all my work.
So you don't have any, like, raisins or anything?
Here, take my sunflower seeds. Everyone knows it's my favorite snack. Oh look, a shadowy cadre of military thugs here to suppress the truth.
Jesus Christ, Mulder. Take like a 20-minute break from being you.
Everybody freeze. I'm here to arrest an Agent Fox Mulder.
Your name is Fox? Are you some kind of hippie?
Hey, are you Mulder?
Who wants to know?
You're under arrest. Kash Patel wants to bring you in personally.
This is ridiculous. On what charges?
Expensing sunflower seeds on a federal spending report.
You can't suppress the truth forever. The people have rights, and one of those inalienables, incontrovertible rights, is a free and open society where secrets are exposed.
For fuck's sake,
Roswell,
can you shut him
Roswell,
up?
No problem,
Roswell. Oh. All right. That was DOD. What a... This was quite the listening party. I had a good time. It looks like the computer did not break. I feel like I can say that safely now. If it craps out now, we've had a successful stream, so knock on wood, it'll be fine. I'm not gonna knock on wood because that's my desk, and knowing how it's been lately, if I just start knocking on my desk, it's gonna break the computer. So let's not put that to chance. DOD fam, you lovely, wonderful, fantastic people. What a great month. You have until Sunday night to get those votes in. If you go to the website, you will see where to send those votes. Got until, so that's Sunday, March 30th, 9 p.m. Eastern. So that is 46 hours and 20 minutes. And hey, keep an eye on the Discord server or the Blue Sky or the Shiz. We're going to be sharing some of those resources about the Sky Shark source. That's the VGM Con Tornado Solos competition coming up. And you know what I just realized? I usually talk about this way more than I do. I'm just going to drop in one more here at the end. Patrons know what next month's theme is. Patrons have seen next month's banner art. It is uncontrovertibly amazing and discontrovertibly amazing. You might want to become a patron just so you can see that banner art tonight instead of, a few days from now. Just saying. Anywho, this has been Dwelling of Duels. I've been Evil Sonic. You've all been amazing. And keep it right here because you're the friends we made along the way. Good night, fam.